we're going to be channeling what I call the A-team today with my lovely facilitator, Candace Craw-Goldman. The A-team, I call them that because, you know, I used to call them the Ascension team because they all have an incredible purpose for helping us align with ourselves spiritually and on a deeper level, you know, into a realization of who we are and what we are. So a lot of their views are different now. For those of you scientists watching this podcast, you're going to be surprised that a lot of their views are impeccably different now while still honoring the work that they did. They often like to talk about, okay, I did that. This is why I did that. This is what I learned from that. And this is where I stand now. So those questions are always welcome. Recently, a couple weeks ago, as I was preparing for this, he became the main voice of this group for the first time. Simultaneously, someone from his team reached out to me. I'm now really talking to that person on a daily basis, and we're discussing their water conference next year and getting messages back and forth to his brother and all sorts of amazing things. So this channeling is for his team.
So, Dr. Emoto, people are very aware of your experiments with rice in jars. So the questions we are getting today want to know about how that pertains particularly to water. Is it the same? Do we treat, so all those experiments out there with the 2 jars of rice, if we did the same with water, would it be the same?
For anything to begin, and everything begins with water because everything begins with sound, you need a primordial divine spark. And the essence of this I've often called the impulse. This is when light meets water. Your intention is that light, the essence of emotion, the frequency of such essence that you bring into your impulse will cause the form to contract or expand, which is why you experimented with rice. And I observe rice when you add water to it, much in the same way that I would observe form when you add water to it. I observe expansion and contraction. When light meets water, emotions create the sound that resonates the spark or the God essence. When I asked them about deeper information, he said, you already understand this research. And he said, in each water cell, you need to understand that there are at least 450 information panels that record and collect your accumulated memory, and you are calling that science karma. He gives me a lot of visuals lately about water, and he says so many of you today are still incredibly concerned about the chemical compound, like what's in your water. I am not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the structure of the particles and how they are maintaining the form, because this tells me how you are maintaining your form and if you are evolving or not as a species.
Pamela, how is this similar or different than the water alchemy that you have taught your students that is an integral part of Beyond Quantum Healing, the placing of the intention before having a regression session into the water? Is that different than that?
In that particular activation, and that's what he calls it, an activation, that is under the perception that the water is external. All water is a part of you. Do you need a glass of water to do that? You are that water and you are that form. What if you're holding on to the form? What if you're putting your hand on your chest, just like you would on a glass of water, and blessing the water inside of you? Your sound vibration, when combined with the impulse, many, many impulses later, you're activating all the cells within you in a very quick way.
Questions about how to resonate water, how to bless water. What are the very best easy practices we can all do to take this information into our daily lives?
There are two impulses and high frequencies within such impulses that resonate water. One is grace, the other is purity. You must resonate your water with the impulse of innocence in order to access purity. You must see innocence in all in order to utilize purity in this work. So in other words, as opposed to worrying about what intention you are using when blessing your water, observe the flow of your second brain, Tesla said. So he talks about this a lot, the second brain. And when I ask him what that is, he says, observe it here, not here. And he's much more direct. And Emoto is often soft and patient with me, and Tesla gets straight to the point and raises his voice and gets all impatient still. So improving the structure of water as opposed to looking at the chemical compound of it is what he's after. So we had major discussions about water and about how we're using it in our homes, how we're so concerned about pollution of water around the world. And he said, if you're blessing the water in your body and you're blessing the water in your homes, if you're adding elements of light and sound, amplifying sound through your water while simultaneously allowing your impulses to be full of light. So when you're amplifying sound vibration with your impulse of the particular emotions that you're experiencing into the water, along with light, it does something that inactivates what Dolores calls the death module in the brain, which Candace and I discussed, I believe, in a channeling not too long ago. You can feel free to ask us about that. It inactivates that, which causes aging. Emoto is incredibly interested in discussing immortality with us today, and on any day, it's one of his favorite topics with me. So it deactivates that, and it activates what Tesla calls the Higgs boson, which is what I call the God particle. Water is foundational to this. If your water is dead, so is your life.
Dr. Emoto, does it make a great deal of difference to have collectives of peoples blessing the water simultaneously, the world's water? And what intention or frequency should we use to do this? Do numbers matter?
Numbers do matter. While simultaneously recognizing the universal laws of oneness, that it is equally as important for each of you to do this work as it is for the entire world to do it together. It is the unity of your work that promotes this function, that makes it possible, that makes grace accessible. It doesn't matter as much. It's about how much power is in the impulse that you are sending into yourselves and the water. When you're focusing on the water, it also is a focus within you. If 10 people are powerful enough to resonate with purity, innocence, and grace, in that order, together, it is so powerful that it would be just as powerful as if 10,000 people resonated simply with forgiveness and acceptance and their beautiful frequencies. But the power of innocence, purity, and grace amplifies and makes everything stronger. So it's not so much about, okay, we have to have 10,000 people to bless the ocean today. Can we have 10 people that resonate purity on the West Coast? Can we have 100 people that resonate pure grace on the East Coast? And can they do it for a certain amount of time? Can they do it minus belief systems and minus interruption of that frequency?
There's several questions about distilling water. A lot of people are really putting a lot of energy into distilling the water that they drink, thinking that's healthier. Is that putting a resonance into water by thinking or by doing the act of distilling with emotion to make it better for your body? It's an interesting question.
Heating water is not something he's a fan of. So we'll start there. So the distillation process, the water treatment process, the process of even from there, when water comes into our homes and is heated by a hot water heater, all of those things basically kill everything that's in water. And that's dead water. So then you get to reactivate, reinvigorate, put new impulses into the water to quicken it again. You get to do that. So it's not about if you're distilling your water or not, if your water is alkaline or not. He does seem to prefer spring water because he likes the natural sources, and then take it from there. So go get your own spring water. That's his advice to you. Is he's really sweet about it and sensitive to it, but he said, please don't be lazy. And he's talking to me because I'm particularly lazy about not going to get my spring water. I'll let the water run out in my house, and I'm like, well, I can just bless it for everyone, and then I do. But he really does prefer it when I go get spring water.
Does water resonate other water? So like, can you take some spring water and put it into some other water? Would that help that water? Or does it actually?
Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay. So we can go get spring water then and say, put some drops in a bathtub, and that would help the resonance of our bath water.
He said, go deeper, put you in the bath water. It's your frequency in the bath water, and that's water inside of water, because you're the water, not the form that's encapsulating the water. As you get in the tub, you are that water. So your emotions when you get in there are going to be more of what matters, not dropping, not putting water into water in this specific way of form into form, but light into light. He talks more about the light in the water and amplifying sound and light simultaneously in water. So your sound is your emotion, and when it amplifies through your body, it becomes the light reverberating from your form, and then you get into the tub.
Can we combine that with our source tones then?
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I continue to create source tones. This is one way to do it. One of many ways.
While I'm waiting for my source tone and sitting in the bathtub like this, I've been thinking that's where I would like to try it. I love this one because it's a question about the kidneys. This one says, what's the best way to get our kidneys filtering so we can clean our lymph systems, heal our bodies from symptoms of acidosis? But yes, our kidneys do filter and do use water and are a big part of flow in our bodies. What does Emoto have to say about our kidneys?
Okay. Not overwhelm the system. Tesla. Hold on. When it talks, it does that. Give me a second. All right. Let's test. No, it's still there. I got excited about that question, and a couple of them were trying to talk at once. So the consensus on this from the entire team is don't permeate the water that you're putting with your body in negative ways. So when you're drinking water, be very observant. This is what Emoto says, be observant of your emotional frequency at the time that you're drinking water. If you're drinking water and you're feeling loathing towards yourself or another, if you're drinking water, you are feeling resentment, particularly resentment, self-loathing, criticism, and anger are all negative frequencies that absolutely destroy the kidneys while you're drinking water all the time. And there's water in your food. And when you're adding water to that, you just amplify that in your body, which destroys your kidneys, because it resonates as that light in your kidneys. And that light actually is not incredibly good. Light is light is light. So it doesn't matter if that light is coming from what you call a negative frequency. It's powerful. Hate can be a powerful frequency. Purity is more powerful. So you have to think about, if you're feeling that, maybe stop and forgive for a moment before you start to drink your water. So it's just the observation of this. You're permeating your system with these frequencies, which permeates the water, and then it goes to your kidneys, and then everything goes foul from there.
So the brain is a frequency modulator. Of course, I'm going back to this death module, modulator. It's so interesting because these belief systems then affect our brain and affect our frequency modulation then. I mean, it actually is affecting that. So you've mentioned several times during this show to try to operate outside of belief, which I find an interesting turn of phrase rather than change your belief or drop your belief or accept a new belief. You're saying operate outside of your belief system. How about a little talking about how does one do that? How do you operate outside of your belief system?
Dolores says that is within the power of your trust. That is within the power of what you're choosing to trust in each moment, which is why I stated that trust is so important in preparation for a session. Trust is important in everything. You place value and meaning on everything, and it becomes a belief, she says. What if you can't step outside of value and meaning at this time, if you observe when you are discarding proper meaning and value and inviting negative meaning and value because you are addicted to the emotions that are attached to that meaning and value. Your brains over time are conditioned and structured to cause for a habitual response in your belief systems. You feel something bad, and at some point in time, you believe that it is more beneficial to continue to believe that. It's not. What if you simply tried something different, whether or not you know if it's beneficial? You're addicted to knowing how you will feel, and you attach meaning to everything in an effort to prevent feeling bad and to attach to feeling good. This is the nature of the survival response in your brain. When you are no longer addicted to the survival response and reaction, you understand that feelings don't have to be classified as benefit or detriment. They're all classified as subconscious. When you become conscious of the subconscious, your life is more powerful. You begin to respond and not react to everything. You are not operating from a defense mechanism or an offense mechanism. You are not operating from any reference point of mind.
Here's a question about binaural beats and entrainment. How do they affect us, please?
Oh, Emoto. Okay, so when you get him talking about sound vibration, that's the main time when he likes to talk a lot. The rest of the time, the answers are shorter and more succinct. Rhythm and sound is particularly fascinating to him and always have been when sound has a certain beat that can match the human biorhythms. It affects things like circadian rhythms. It affects your heartbeat. It slows down the heartbeat. It slows down the breath. It slows down the unconscious thought patterns that prevent you from connecting more deeply to yourself consciously. Basically, binaural beats help you connect to yourself. Sound does that. Sound reminds you of who you are in a way that you can't pattern or hold a reference point, much in the way that you cannot define why your heart beats. Sound has patterns and rhythm that connect to every unique pattern and rhythm of sound within you. He's talking about how he's continuing. He's talking about how when we're in the womb, in water, that the first thing we observe is our mother's heartbeat, and then before we know it, we begin to observe our own heartbeat. But when we do, we initially observe it as one beat. So sound does this again. It brings us back to an in utero state where we didn't have any fear because everything is oneness. We didn't view ourselves as separate from mother.
There's a really great question here about snowflakes. The question is, I've heard it said that all snowflakes are unique. Is it because there are so many frequencies all around creating so many snowflakes? I wonder if take on the shape of love frequency if more of the human consciousness collective resonated more in this frequency. I love that question.
He said that is the science of water that is particularly fascinating. Any other element on this earth, when you freeze it, it dies. When you freeze water, it does not contract, it expands, which makes it unique. So that means you have captured all of the memory that was there at that time. And whatever it is, whether it's love or not, it is basically that's how it stays. This is why, many scientists in archaeology, dig up mammoths and things of this nature, and so much is preserved. That's because of, the very advanced programming, and not just the recording and programming of water that was recorded. It keeps it. It's a record keeper. And ice is fabulous for that. So it's not so much about snowflakes being love. Snowflakes are whatever the water was before it was frozen.
All right. Suna asks a question. She says, I plan to connect snow falling now into water barrels for use in the spring and summer for the vegetable garden. Is there something special about natural snowfall when used as water?
Emoto says it holds the particular particles down to the nanoparticles. It holds a particular structure in place from season to season. So you're capturing memory that worked for your prior crop, which gives the next year's crop a better chance.
Wow, that's a great, fun answer. Can we manifest the rain to come when it is a drought?
Yes, absolutely, because you are water. And when you understand that you are not separate from the very skies from which the water fall, this will be more powerful for your world. Emoto answer.